Welcome back. And last time we spoke about, I spoke about getting into cloud, just basic information about what you're getting yourself into. And I remember speaking about the different part of cloud you can get into, both the technical and the non-technical, like DevOps, big data, security, networking, what again, machine learning, and also like the non-technical part of cloud that really just has to do with like maybe like cloud economics or whatnot. So I believe you've watched that video. If you've not, I think you should go check that video out. It's getting into cloud. It's on my YouTube. And so today I'll be talking about how to get started. Now that you have an idea of what you think you might fit into, and getting started in itself. Even if you're not sure of exactly what part of cloud you want to fit into, there are some prerequisites you have to do anyway, so you can actually make your decision along the way. A lot of my friends, I mean, and myself, we never knew what we wanted to do until we actually dived into cloud, and then eventually everyone found their different areas. I have a lot of friends that are in security. They like security, and I like some that are in networking. I have some that are in like big data. I'm in big data myself, and I do big data and machine learning a lot. I also did DevOps at some point. I think I've caught across every almost every part of cloud, and I'm not gonna say the one I love the most, but there's one I love the most, and everyone who knows me knows the part of cloud I love the most. But yeah, getting started. So I think the first question, like one of the questions I get is, what kind of laptop should I get? So I think that question, don't get yourself too caught up with trying to get a fancy laptop, or spending ridiculous amount of money on like a $5,000 MacBook. Like, I think a lot of you guys are rich, but you can if you want to. But don't yeah, you don't have to worry about getting ridiculously expensive computer, or like a very GPU fast processing machine. It doesn't matter, and the reason is because most of the things you will be computing, or most of the things you'll be building, most of the services you'll be working with, they are not even on your computer. They're going to be living in the cloud. So of course you need like a good computer that works. So just think about any computer that works. But I can give you a preference. So if you have a MacBook, you might have a little more advantage, and that's because it's easier to interact on the command line, and it gives you like that Linux feel compared to like Windows. Windows is PowerShell. So I don't like Windows. Nothing. I don't want Windows. So yeah. So just have that at the back of your mind. And so what again? So you can just get a computer that works. As long as your computer works, you're fine. You're good. One. That's one. So two. The next question is, where do I go from there? Like, do I need to do a certification, or shall I just study on my own? Now, you can study on your own and just learn this stuff on your own, because what is most important is doing the on having the practical knowledge anyways. Like the theoretical knowledge is really nothing if you cannot practice it. But I think you should follow the track of scheduling an exam. Like, set a date for yourself. That puts you in like a track, like you're in a classroom, and it gives you that discipline. I'm not sure how disciplined you are. For myself, when I started, I wasn't as disciplined as I thought I was. So I registered for an exam. I set a date. So I always have it at the back of my head that I have an exam date coming. I have to study. So no matter what, I had a schedule. So create a schedule for yourself. You have to do. You have to practice and learn almost every day, and that's because you're new to this space, and it's easy for things to fly out. Like, you learn this today, boom, it's gone tomorrow. So you have to actually be on top of it. Like, you have to learn it every day. I recommend an average of 2 hours a day. If you want to really go hard, try 4 hours a day for the next. I feel like doing it for the next 2-3 months continuously would really help you. And I think you can do it in like 2 months, 1 month. I've seen people do it in like 3 weeks. So depending on, just don't look at other people. Try to work with something that works for you. But I don't recommend going less than 2 hours a day. trying to study or trying to do something or learn something. And trust me, time goes by really fast when you start doing the projects and practicals related to it. So try to do a certification and try to schedule a certification. You can schedule the foundational certification, which will give you like a smooth sailing into the space. That's the cloud practitioner exam. You can look it up, and or you want to do like the solution architect associates. I think those two are like what I think you should really focus on. Don't worry about DevOps. I mean, you can do DevOps certification. You can probably try to do it later, but I always recommend once you get your solution architect associate certificates, just focus on like practicing like the things you learned there. Like try to do labs. I have like couple projects I think I can share. If you're interested, we can have a conversation about it. I can send them your way. So I think it's important to like start looking into those projects immediately you're done. Don't worry about doing all of these big name certifications. You can, but don't make it your primary focus, because after you get your solution architect associate certification, you probably want to focus on like the real life stuff, and you're probably looking for a job too. So you probably want to focus more on doing projects, because those will help you when you're doing your interviews. So that said, create a track for yourself. So while you're learning, so there are different ways you can do it. So like I said, if you're disciplined, you can enroll for like a Udemy course. Like they're very, very cheap, and as cheap as anything. And you can find different solution architect associates prep classes there, and maybe for like 12-13 hours, or I'm not sure exactly. You can register for a class, like an actual training. Like I'm from Cybertech. Like I'm the CEO of Cybertech, and my training offers something like that, like to train people from scratch. Like you don't know anything about cloud, and it just takes you from like the scratch all the way up, and then you start doing some more practical stuff after the program in like some other program I created called Cloud Reality. So you might want to check that out. So either ways, whatever works for you. And I'm not going to try to sell my training, so you don't have to worry about me trying to advertise my training or not. But whatever works for you, just get yourself in like a track of learning and proceed from there, and make sure you're doing practicals with whatever you're doing. So that is for that. So the next thing now is let's say you get your certification. What next? Now what is next is doing projects. And the reason I recommend doing projects is because the only way to sustain certain concepts that you've learned, the only way to sustain it is to actually do projects that are related to that area. I'll give you an example. You must have learned IAM. You must have learned IAM for like identity management. You must have learned maybe S3 buckets for like storing objects, like object related maybe files, file, or like hosting like a static website. You might have learned about maybe like the security part, which is like config rule. You might also have learned about Lambda functions, how they're like serverless and they can be used for automation and trigger. Now, those are like different services in AWS. An example of project I have, asked some of my mentees to do is like, how about you just, create a scenario where you create a problem for yourself, basically. Like an example of a problem statement is you have a management of your organization. They have all of these like tons of S3 buckets, and they don't know which one is public. They don't know which one is private, and they're trying to find a solution to it. Are you necessarily going to go into each of the buckets to check, oh, is this private? No, public, private, public, 500 times? No, that is not going to happen. Now, that is where you can now think about, okay, you start thinking about how to approach it. The thing about, the beautiful thing about IT is there is like 10,000 ways to approach one thing. I mean, not really 10,000 ways, but there's so many ways to approach a problem. And that's when you start developing the mindset of how to think in a solution-driven way. So when there's a problem, the first thing you want to do is to sit down and try to understand the problem. I mean, you have to understand the problem first to find a solution to it. So once you understand a problem like that, for example, our problem is that we have a bunch of S3 buckets, like 500 of them. We don't know which one is private. We don't know which one is public. And we want to find a solution to it. What do? So someone will say, "Oh, okay, I I want to go into the AWS console and go through each of the buckets, the 500 buckets." I mean, that's crazy, but it's a solution, right? I mean, however how long it takes you, that's your problem. Now, someone else would say, a smarter person, I would say, would say, "Well, I don't want to go through 500 buckets. How about we do something that can be automated, like an automated solution that would automatically go through all the buckets and search for which one is private and which one is public." Now, you might not even know the solution, but you have an idea. So that is already telling you you're creating like a solution driven mindset of, okay, something that can go through all the buckets and would know which one is private and which one is public. And you know what that does to you is that puts you in a research mode. So you start going to Google to search. Oh, detect when a bucket is public, detect when a bucket is unencrypted. So you would have found another thing is there's nothing you're looking for that nobody has searched for before. So you need to have that at the back of your mind that Googling is a good skill. It's part of IT and you should feel comfortable Googling anything. Like I've worked with people that are like genius, like that have like doctorate degrees in like their areas of expertise. They still go to Google. They still rely on Google. And that's because no one is an island of knowledge. So feel free to like, research whatever you're looking for, read different blogs. So you will now start seeing, oh, maybe you might now run into an article that says there's something called config rule, right? Config rule, you might have never heard of the word config rule before, but that day you will learn it. So config rule is like a service that has the capacity of, scanning through those buckets and detecting which one is private or public. Now, it can be applicable to anything. So it's a config. Config is a service in AWS where you can create your rule. And the rule can say, if a bucket is public, counts that bucket as not being compliant, meaning you can create your own compliance rule within your environment. So something like that, now you can tell which one is public and which one is not with the help of that service. Now you can now take it a step further and say, now I want to create a solution, meaning when I find a bucket that is public, I want to like do something that will get those buckets that are public and then probably send a message or like, create like a report or generate something. So that's when you start thinking of maybe writing like a Python script. Of course, you don't necessarily have to, have any Python knowledge to be in cloud, but it's helpful. If you cannot write the code, try to know how to read the code. It's important. Like I really don't care what anyone says. If you're getting into IT, I'm not saying you have to write codes. I think I have to put this the right way. You don't necessarily have to be able to write code. You don't even need to be like an hardcore like coder, but try to understand the logic, try to understand the flow, try to have the capacity of having the templates and knowing how to read the templates and knowing how to interpret it and having an idea of what it's doing, even if you cannot write it from scratch. So that will really go a long way and that will help you. I think we've had enough conversation for today, but this is just to give you an idea of getting into cloud and, part of the solutions, like having these solution-driven mindsets and then creating problem statements and then drafting out a solution. So this is just gonna be for today, and my next tech talk, I think I'm gonna be bringing one of my friends. Hopefully it's free. I'm not gonna tell you who the person is. We're gonna have like more interactive conversations, and he's gonna talk about his experience, and we can like find a common ground between us, and you guys can even ask questions from comments or like send in like emails to ask questions we can address in the next session. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great day and enjoy.